Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. Hope you're doing all right. Alrighty. Let's turn this down a little here. There we go. All right, we've got a couple things today. So we're moving on to actually now using PHP to work with our MySQL database that we built. It's all about Chapter 4 here. And then we'll cover Project 1. I'll go over a solution to that. And we'll go over Project 2. So, Duong, only like 2, but this is my cup. Like, it's literally larger than my fist. So this is an entire pot. It doesn't fit in one cup, but like 2 cups is about a pot of coffee. And this is my 3rd cup. So we're going strong. So we've got one kid who's ill. It's just some stomach troubles, but that's been no fun. Oh, we also have the lab as well. But I basically did the lab, so I don't think there's anything I need to cover. That was you guys just following along. Yeah, project. Oh, did I name it 0? I probably did. Sorry. Usually, I start with zeros because, of arrays and indexes, everything's 0 based. I just forgot to do that in the syllabus. I'm sorry. I'll go fix that in a minute. So we'll talk about the project. We fire up NetBeans here, and then we'll get into using PHP with databases. We're going to keep using that database. So if you had any problems with the lab, let me know. I'm happy to hop on and help you get all that stuff set up right, because I'll keep doing the examples based off of that database. Yeah, so I should rename that in the syllabus here. This was our income tax calculator application here. Okay, so again, an oversimplification of how it works, but we wanted to display taxes owed at each bracket. So for an example, right, your sort of output might look something like that. So we got a lot of PHP stuff. We got a form we're going to send it over to, and then some practice. Let's see if I can get NetBeans to load for me here. All right. Not quite had enough coffee yet to get the jitters, but I do love that jitter emote. I'm super happy with that one. That's my regular coffee emote, but like they had these cool like animations you could do. So thought that was fun. So we're going to go find the brackets here. The MoneyChimp site, I think, was probably explained it better than the IRS website, which is a little sad. So these are our brackets. I was going to do the married brackets because that's my situation. I can do the single ones if you folks want, but I like doing the married brackets. So you'll notice with that standard deduction, right? You're not paying 10% on the first amount of money you earn anyway because of the deduction. But again, that's I guess a different story. Right? And then they show you, taxes owed at each bracket here for total amount. So this was a nice little showing you this was the 2012 version, but showing you at each bracket level you pay a different amount at different percentages, which is kind of cool. And that was kind of the point, to illustrate how much you pay in taxes at the different percentage brackets. So just because someone lands in the 32% bracket doesn't mean they're paying 32% of their income in income tax, right? And then again, capital gains taxes are completely separate from income taxes because we have some crazy systems. So I think the thought there was good, but it leads to all sorts of weird incentives for people to do things certain ways. So come on, NetBeans, let's go. I did freshly restart my computer here, which is good. So hopefully it'll run a little nicer here, but it is still just confused. Oh my goodness, I should have started this first. I'm sorry. Half the time I am remembering now. I know I say it every time, but I am remembering to start it half the time when I just have the music playing at the intro. So, and hopefully, I think streams never go super long, so the only ad you should ever see is like the 30-second ad once you come to the stream. So that's why I've got the music playing in the beginning. So everyone who pops in, they're not going to miss anything when those ads run. So, and they do support the Student Scholarship Fund over at the University of Michigan Dearborn College of Engineering and Computer Science. So, there's something for that 30 seconds worth of time. Come on, NetBeans. Let's go. My goodness, this is like extra slow right now, even slower than usual. All right. Close these down. Maybe. NetBeans turns on functionality as you use it. Start creating and opening projects as the ID, and the ID just the features you need in your experience. It's quicker and cleaner. Okay, NetBeans, I believe you. It's time to just lunge and buy the new laptop I keep talking about, but I'm trying to put off spending some money. All right, so we're going to go PHP, make a PHP application. Look at that. The PHP module wasn't even activated, so it did load a little faster. That's sad that that was faster. I'm a little sad about that fact. And I did find a better IDE for PHP editing, but it has to be licensed, which you can get free licenses for educational use, but that gets to be a pain when you folks have to install that on your computers at home, which is a bit of a hassle. We're getting there. Slowly but surely. Yeah, I mean, so it would work fine for all of our computers and the virtual desktop, but then I can't really give them out for you to use on personal machines. I can only install them on college computers, which is a bummer. All right, so we got here. So now we're going to give it a project name. So this was project 0. And then the location, right? I don't want to put it right in htdocs. That's bad form. Let's put it in our GitHub directory. But this should be 2454 for winter 2022. And again, I'm putting it inside of another folder because that'll help keep things organized in my repository. For you folks, you can put it right in the root because you have one repository per assignment. I just don't want to have to give you 15 different links for all the different examples. So I'm further subdividing, which should be fine. All right, we'll go next. And then my port here is 5080, right? And then I need to copy to htdocs project 0. So the URL, right, the slash part of the URL corresponds with the folder inside of htdocs. Go next. We don't need any frameworks, no composers, and we're good to hit finish. And then let me go fire up XAMPP here and get my Apache server up and running so we can actually access these files there in htdocs. Give that a start. There we go. All right, so looking good so far. That all index page, which is great. I'm going to go copy paste a form because I don't want to type any of this out by hand. So let's go back to our GitHub repo for the course. 454 winter 2022, and we'll just copy a form. We can change a couple names. I think it'll work out nicest for us. So that was the index page, had a form. We'll grab a form here, throw that in here. We don't actually need any PHP code on this first page. It can just be the index. And then we'll send this to, what do we say, calculator.php. It can be a post or a get. I think a get's probably fine here. Should be okay. And then we were looking for their name, total gross income, and total deductions. So name is fine. And then we wanted gross income. Maybe total gross income is nice too, just to tell them. So if you have more than one job, you'll get more than one W-2s. You have to fill it in yourself, right? Or calculate it yourself. That's okay. And then total deductions. This will be total deductions. And then we don't need the rest of this. Okay, there's our form. So we're going to send it to calculator PHP with the name, the gross income. Oops, and I missed that input. I deleted too many things. This will be total deductions. Okay. So we got our form. Now we're going to go add our new file. And now we need to add the calculator page. New PHP file. Calculator. Great. Now inside of here, we need to do all this stuff in our code block. So again, generally, wow, that was weird. NetBeans. we'll do all of our calculations, set up all the variables, and then we'll just output all the HTML down below. So again, we'll just go and copy off one of these pages here, like our pizza page, why not? And let's copy all of it, why not? Excuse me. Okay. So we had a couple things. We had a name. Here was going to be name. And there's no validation, right? It was not an integer value. So just get the name out here. And then we wanted to get the gross income was going to be gross income. And that's probably, they're going to give me an int. I don't think they're going to give me pennies. So I think we're fine doing that as an int. And then total deductions. And that was total deductions. Again, if they gave us a couple pennies and we missed it here, I'm not too concerned, right? Not too worried about it. Okay? I don't know, what, go back? Sure. All right, so now we have total deductions here. Now we wanted to see, so a couple things. First off, we need the HTML special characters on name, right? We want to make sure we do that. So that was HTML special characters, given that name, just in case they give me any nonsense. Okay. Then, if their total deductions is less than the standard, we're going to use the standard deduction instead. So I'm going to do the married brackets, if you folks don't mind. So this is 25,100. So real quick, I can just check. I can say, hey, if my total deductions is less than 25,100, right, 25,100, is that what I said? 25,100. Then I'll set total deductions equal to 25,100. Now, this is a little bit ugly here, and what I probably want to do here is have the like married standard deduction set as a value up here. And I think, can you do underscores? Yeah, you can do underscores too for your digit separator, which is really nice. And now I have a nice name for it here. All right, so we're setting our values here and saying, hey, I have a nice name for this number now. Anytime you've got a number without a name, we'll call it like a magic number, and it can lose meaning here. And then if you have to go change it later, you have to go find everywhere it's in your code. Here, if I want to change it for next year, right, we're all set. We can just do it right here. What should be? This should be the 2021 married income tax estimator. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to copy that over because might as well put that in the title while we're thinking of it here. Just an estimator. Please don't use this for actual tax purposes. Right. Okay, so now we have the total deductions. Okay, and then with their adjusted gross income is income minus deductions. Again, not exactly how it works, but an oversimplification of it here is fine. So we'll have an adjusted gross income is the gross income minus the total deductions. Okay, now we're going to use the adjusted gross income to calculate the taxes that they owe here on out. Okay, so we're going to use the brackets, calculate the taxes owed at each bracket, or 0, that's fine, no problem at all. And then we'll calculate these percentages, and we'll display all the results. So I'm going to grab all of this here, and I'm going to drop that into right here. This is our body here. So each of those needs, so you just need to echo their name, right, and then a line break. We'll do a bunch of line breaks after each of these, right? Oops. Goodness. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, so we got a bunch of line breaks. And now I can actually do all of these inside of their own echoes if I want. Here, if I use the double quotes. Remember, so I can use double quotes and it'll automatically substitute all those values for me here. So I'm going to copy all of this in here. Do a bunch of these. I know it's going to yell at me for a minute. We'll go back and finish those quotes in a second. I want to copy all of these in. We're just doing a bunch of echoes essentially. And then we'll close with that. Oh, selected too many. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Actually, I wanted the percent sign there, right? So I want that percent sign. And one more time. Want that percent sign there. Okay. Then what I can do here, I can just plug in these values, right? Would be dollar taxes owed at 10%. Right? I can just take all these values and I can just throw them in here. Let's see, the spacing is going to be a little bit funny on this, but that's okay. We'll make it work. And this will be at 22%, and this will be at 12%, and this will be at 24%, and then this one will be at 32%, and this one will be at 35%, this will be at 37%, 37. This will be total taxes owed. Total taxes owed, right? Just thinking about what my variable names are going to be here. And then this is going to be percentage, or what, taxes as percentage of gross income. Why not? We can come up with really long names here, because why not? Taxes as percentage of adjusted gross income. All right, that one's a little long. I'm a little bit embarrassed, but that's okay. Not too bad here. All right, and we're just going to echo all those out. And that's the body of our HTML. Right, goes pretty well. I guess these don't have to be inside the echo because we're not substituting a lot of things. And maybe we could just put the echo here, but again, either way should work. All right, so we adjusted gross income, so then we need to calculate. So then we're going to have a taxes owed at 10%. I'm going to start them off at 0 until I know otherwise, right? So until we calculate 10, 12, 22, something or other, something or other, something or other, right? 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, 37. 32, 35, 37, right? And then when we're done, it's pretty easy to add all these together. So total taxes owed is going to be, well, all these added together. Plus this one, 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 plus this one. Okay? So all of the calculation has to go inside of here, right? So we can actually figure it out. And then we'll have taxes owed, right? What was our variables here? Taxes as a percentage of, easy, 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 is going to be my total taxes owed divided by my gross income. And then my taxes as a percentage of gross income here is going to be my total taxes owed divided by my adjusted gross income. Okay, so we're setting it all up. Again, they're all zeros right now, and 0 divided by 0 is going to be bad, but it's okay. We won't we'll worry about that when we get there. Okay. I guess if there's no income, they're not even going to bother calculating anything, so that should be fine. And then your adjusted gross income, just because probably, I mean, there's all sorts of weird things when it comes to taxes, and people can actually get money back from the government having not paid any taxes. But we're gonna assume that it's never negative for now, okay? Because you're not getting negative money back. There are certain things that happen, but that's okay. So we're gonna say, hey, if that's less than 0, by the way, let's just set it to 0, just to make our life a little easier here, okay? And then if it's 0, we're just done, right? Stop. We don't need to do anything else. So I guess we could add in some more ifs here if we wanted to make that a little cleaner, but because divided by 0 is going to be really weird. But it's okay. Don't worry too much about it here. All right, so now we need to figure out how do we calculate these things. Now, we got a lot of different approaches here, because essentially one of three things can happen, right? Either you owe no taxes at that bracket, you owe some taxes at that bracket, or you owe all the taxes at that bracket, right? This idea with these brackets here is if you make more than 19,900 married filing jointly here, you're paying all of the 10% of that amount. You're paying $1,990. Right? You're paying 10% of this, so you're paying all the taxes. If you just make 15,000, you're paying some of that. Right? So one of those three things is going to happen. Okay? So I'm going to take these numbers here, and I'm going to put them in as more of these final variables here. So this is start of 37% bracket, and underscore there, right? And I'll have all of these numbers I'm going to store in here. So 35, 32, 24, 22, 12, and 10 is, the zero bracket. So there's nothing there. So 35, 32, 24, 22, and 12, right? I think that is good for those. And then we'll slide over here. So 1990 is the start of that bracket. Again, no commas. 81, 172, 329, 850. And again, the more often you have to type numbers, the more likely you are to make typos. So you're better off putting a nice name to it here and having a single variable to represent it, right? Than you are trying to have it every place. No, not that. There we go. Full screen. So the Windows key, if you hold that down and press like left, will snap it to the left. Right snaps it to the right. Up will increase it. Down should minimize it. Those sorts of fun things. So you got all sorts of fun shortcuts. I'm all about the shortcuts here, in case you hadn't noticed. All right, so we got all the brackets. The start of the brackets, right? Then what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to work my way backwards because I think it's going to simplify this a little bit here. So we're going to say this is income to be taxed. And this is not the only approach, right? So don't worry about it here, but that's going to start as our adjusted gross income. Then I can say, hey, if the income to be taxed is greater than the start of the 37% bracket, right? You are going to pay some amount of taxes at 37%. So that's going to be now the income minus the bracket. Now, remember your order of operations here, friends. This is important. When you're doing your arithmetic, order of operations is super important. So you're only paying 37% of every dollar above the start of this bracket, right? So you pay 37% of every dollar above 628,300 here. So do that times 0.37, right? That's how much you owe. Then what's going to happen is your income to be taxed, then you have paid taxes on everything else. I'm going to bump to the start of the bracket. So I've said, okay, you have to pay taxes on this much. Now what's remaining is going to be this. Now I just have another if. So now if your income to be taxed is less than the start of the 35% bracket here, your income to be taxed at 35% is going to be your current income minus the start of the bracket times 0.35, and then I'll bump you down to 3.5. So the beauty of this here is if your income is somewhere in between, so if you made $500,000 as married filing jointly here, this first if never happens because it's not more than 628,000. The second if says, okay, true, 500,000 is more than 418,000. How much do you pay? Well, 500, the start of the bracket, right? So your income 500,000 minus the start of the bracket is every dollar above the 418,000 that you owe. We'll charge you 35 cents on the dollar, and then we'll say, okay, what's remaining to be taxed now is here. So I can just take this here and I can copy paste it. And then this can be 32. So start of the 32 bracket, how much taxes you owe at 32% is your income minus the start of the bracket times 32%. Reset your income to be taxed at 32. Okay, now let's do 24. 24, 24, 24, 24, 24, 22, 22, 22, 22, 22, 22, 12, 12, 12, 12. So you got to be careful here, because if you don't replace all these things correctly here, then you've got problems. So now the start of the 10% bracket is 0, right? That's the start of the 10% bracket. So it's just your income to be taxed times 0.1. Right? There's no start of the bracket to bother with anymore here. And then you're done. Income to be taxed. We'll set it to 0. Why not? Not quite necessary, but it should be okay. All right, so that's the logic here. So this way, I don't have to deal with all three of those different situations, that you pay none of it, you pay some of it, or you pay all of it. If you pay none of it, the if never runs. Easy, right? And then whether or not it's all of it or some of it, it's the exact same logic here, because I'm working my way top down, changing the income to be taxed. Most people see, oh, 10%, let me do the 10% first. And that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. I think you've probably done more work than you need to at that point, but that's all. So if you calculate, okay, 10%, then is it none of the 10%, some of the 10%, or all of the 10%? Okay, 12%. Is it none of the 12%, some of the 12%, or all of the 12%? Sure. And keep on working your way up. That's okay. It'll definitely get the job done. But again, I'm all about the easy approach here. And then it should just run. So let's give it a shot. No, definitely, Marv. Yeah, I'm a big fan of variables, for sure. All right, so name, Eric, total gross income. Let's try 200,000. Total deductions. Let's do more than the standard. No, let's do less than the standard. Let's just put in 0. Let's do like 10 and make sure we get the standard deduction. Oh, it doesn't even show me those numbers. That's okay. So taxes then. So 200,000 minus the 50,000, right? I should at most cap out at the 24% bracket, right? So let's check here. So let's do 200 and calculate. Oh, that's taxable income. So we have to subtract that ourselves then, right? So that's minus 25,100. Well, that's a little bit of a bummer. Minus 25,100. That's all right. You know, I'm just going to use the calculator. Why not? There's 25,100. There we go. So that's the taxable income here. Okay, so total tax, the website tells me it's 30,000. Let's check ours. 30,018, 30,018, checks out. Again, it's not formatted nicely or anything, but that's fine. We can do all the pretty formatting later. I'm not a big fan of pretty, or not focused on pretty. I shouldn't say big fan. I am a fan of pretty things, but in the limited time that we have in this class, I'd rather teach you the coding part of things and figure that you can go learn how to make things pretty after the fact, if that's fair. Right? So I don't pay any taxes at the higher brackets, only a little bit at that top bracket. Most of it here at the 22% bracket. Sure. Total taxes owed, taxes as a percentage of gross income, 15%, taxes as a percentage of adjusted gross income, 17%. Now, again, those percentages are a little funny here because we just did the straight arithmetic. So it would probably be more proper then for us to say this is that times 100, right? Because then that will make it look like a percentage rather than, 0.19 is 19%, but it doesn't look as pretty. Okay, there. So now 15% looks like a percentage here. 17% looks like a percentage here. That sort of thing. Does that make sense? Now let's try it. Let's go nuts here. Let's do 1 million, right? Why not? And let's say we've got 100,000 worth of deductions. That should be 900,000 worth of taxes, or 900,000 worth of income. So 37% of every dollar above and beyond 628,000, right? So that should be 900,000 minus this, right? 900,000 minus the 628,300 is $270,000 taxable income at the 37% bracket. Leaves $100,000 worth of taxes for that income. Is that what we got? 100,000 worth. Yep. So I think the calculator's working right. Looks okay so far. Does that make sense? What we're going after here? Again, it's not formatted nicely, but don't worry too much about it here. And then because we also did that checks here, like if I change my income to 0, right, it's just going to, oh, I get division by 0. Shoot. Maybe we should fix that then. We can say if gross income equals 0 or adjusted gross income equals 0. Or maybe how about not equal to 0? If either of them equal 0, then we'll just set them to zeros. Otherwise, we'll leave them at these numbers. Does that make sense? So I'll just set them to zeros. So if your gross was 0, it's got to be 0. If your adjusted was 0, then you're not paying any taxes anyway. We'll just leave it at zeros. Give that a save. And then because this is a Git post, I can just pop it in here, which is nice. So if you have no gross income and you're claiming $100,000 in deductions, someone's going to look at you funny, right? Just go figure. Okay. How you feel about this one? Not too bad. That's a little intro project. Our first real PHP, like trying to get some PHP code out, do a bunch of if-else stuff, do some forms, collect some data, do the special characters. Not too bad, right? That's, what do we end up at? 113 lines of code, 114 or so. Why is there no, there's the line number. That was super weird. Like my line number disappeared. Sure. All right, let me commit this to GitHub. Yeah, I like doing this tax calculator program because most people don't actually know how taxes work. And that I have strong opinions about things, but I think there's a reason why taxes are taken out of your paycheck and we don't have to write individual checks to the feds. Most people don't, at least. If you're an independent contractor, you're doing estimated taxes, but most people who get W-2s as full employees of organizations, you get payroll deduction for your taxes, and you never really see these totals. And that's for a reason, I'm sure. All right, so project 0, commit and push. Why did that not format right? There it goes. Okay. You do that. That's what's going to bother me. Format. And save that. I'm a big fan of that shortcut too. If you go to source and format or Alt-Shift-F, and it's going to automatically tab everything in for you nicely, have everything hanging in the right directions. Should work out real nice. Okay. All right, do you folks want to take a break now, or do you want to start the database stuff and then take a break and then finish up the database stuff? So if we take a break now, we can probably get through all the database stuff without another break. Or we can start at some of it and then we'll take a break midway, or about 7 o'clock or so. Up to you folks. Either way you want to go about it. I got my coffee, so I'm good for now. I think I finished off the pot. There might be a little bit left downstairs. I'll have to go look and see. All right, we got to vote for start now. Let's do it. So this is going to be our, put it in the right folder here, not 2454. Why? 2454. Remember this, please. Call this our registration project. Registration project. Okay. All right, and again, add an import number here, 5080, copy files into registration project. Registration project. So everything is going to be in this registration project, where we can actually go sign up and register for classes and manage all that stuff. So let me go start up our MySQL server here. And one thing we need to do for us to connect to the database is we need a user. So by default, and this is one of the reasons XAMPP is just like for development purposes. Let me go change the port number. You're just able to log in. This root account here that has full permissions, the admin account, has no password. And that's not great. We don't love that. But it's just meant for local development, local practicing, that sort of thing. It's not, you're not going to run an actual web server out here with this XAMPP tool. That's not what it's for. Okay. I get the repository first, and then I make the project in that repository. That way all the stuff's going to be in that repository. Okay, so remember we made this, oh no, we're doing the store. I'm sorry, do we do store? I thought we were doing a different thing. No, store was just our, yeah, okay, so customer item. So registration project was the wrong name for it. That's okay. Store project. Okay, let me go, I'll just rename it here. Why not? Let me just right click, rename. Here we'll call this the store project. And I'm going to also rename the project folder. Rename. Okay, now we have a store project. There we go. That's happier. So in our store database, then, we set up all these tables. We have a customer table, we have an item table, the line item, and a transaction table. We got all these things here. So to get access to this, we have users. So back at home here, on our main page, we have this set of user accounts. So by default, we're using root, which is not great, and there's no password on it. Again, full access, but this is just for development. So what we're going to do is anytime we're interacting with the database through an application, we want to have the least amount of permissions possible here, because you want to make sure that that program can only do the things it needs to be able to do. So we're going to add a user account for it. So we're going to call the user store, and then this host it can log in from anywhere, should be fine. We give it a stupid password. I'm just going to use test here because that's easy. Test. And then what we want to do is we don't want any of these global permissions. No global privileges at all. Okay, I'll take care of it after. So now we created the user. Again, you can do this all with SQL if you want, but use the tool is a lot easier here. And now we're going to give them database-specific permissions. So no global permissions. They're going to go to database and say, hey, I want access to the store database. And what do we want to give them? So remember we talked about there's two different types of SQL. There's the DML, the data manipulation language, and the DDL, the data definition language. The structure is all about the data definition stuff. We don't want to give them access to that. We don't want the application to be doing anything with creating tables or dropping tables or messing with anything here. What they should have access to is selecting, inserting, updating, deleting, doing those CRUD operations. Right? They can create data, they can read data, they can update data, and they can delete data, or select, insert, update, delete. That's what we want to give them permissions for. So we're going to go make a specific user and give them permissions just to the store database. Okay? Then what we're going to go do is we're going to make a file in here, a PHP file, and we'll call this one our database. So in our database file, now we're going to go and do some stuff to connect to our database. So there's a couple things we're going to use out of the PHP library. One of them is called the PDO, PHP data object, I want to say. I don't actually remember the full name of it, which is funny. But to connect to it, you need to tell them what is the connection string. So a connection string is this funny looking string here, but basically it says what type of connection is this? This is MySQL, and then host is where are they going to go connect? So in the real world, they will connect to some database somewhere by name or by IP address or something. We're just connecting locally, so localhost is fine here. And then we say, okay, what database name? So DB name is going to be store. So we say the connection string, then we're going to use MySQL server connection. We're going to connect to the localhost server. The database we want to connect to is store. And then, again, this is bad. I feel bad about it here. It's bad, but we don't have time for the good stuff, or the good things. We're just going to put a username was going to be store, and a password is going to be test. Don't do this in real life. Don't ever put your passwords into source control. Right? That's a real bad thing to do right in your code. There are all sorts of cool tools, and different organizations have different tools for it and different processes for it, ways that you can store passwords not inside your code, right? Because you don't want that to get into source control. You don't want it to get out there. And really, you don't want it plain text anyway. Like, that's just bad form here. But again, this is we don't have time to look at all those good things, and different organizations do it differently, and we're doing development locally anyway. So us keeping it separate is not really going to do anything. But username and password, and then you can create a connection here. So we'll say, here's my database, is a new PDO given my connection string, given my username, and given my password. So that will start a connection then for the database. Now, what happens though is this might not work. So what we're going to do is we're going to surround this with a try block. Remember back in your programming classes, hopefully you had a chance to look at try blocks already, where we're going to try something that might cause an exception. If an exception happens, we'll jump right to the catch block and do the catch thing. So let's try connecting to the database, and if it doesn't work, well, then we can get the exception out and we can echo, sure, as a paragraph, why not here, error, or database error maybe, database error, my EX get message. Sorry, we got to do that first. Sorry. So the error message is the exception get message. There we go. And then we can just include the error message here. That way we can do it right inside the string. And then end that paragraph. Okay. So if a bad thing happens, we'll get the error and connect it, and we should be fine here. Okay, so we're going to put that in our database file, and we can go and use that database file other places when we want to go and access it. So there were a couple ways of getting our files, right? We could include files, we could require files. Did we talk about that? I feel like we talked about that already. Briefly, it was probably 2 weeks ago we would have talked about it, so it's been a little while here. Does that ring any bells? Maybe, maybe not. That's okay. No bells. Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk more about it then. So how we can connect all those files up. So in my index here, then just my home page, right? What I can do inside of my PHP block. Let's do that up at the top here. Inside your PHP block, you've got some options here for how you want to include other files. So one of the things you can do is you can use this require keyword, or you can use require once. So require will basically take another file and make sure that we've loaded it and grabbed it. Right? Same with require once, we'll make sure it's loaded once. So require once is probably better here. We want to require this database connection file. You say, okay, go grab the file and load it up here. What's cool about that is now I have the database object right here from the database file, right? Because my database grabs that database object, I now have access to it here in my index file. This essentially copies the database file in. Essentially, it's ever so slightly different, but it does what we need it to do here. Okay, so we'll grab that file. Now I can access the database and I can do something fun with it here. So some of the things we can do with our database are we can start giving it SQL queries. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a query string like select star from item. Right, so this is like when we were looking at the Explorer here and I went to the item table. This select star from item is the SQL that runs. And we're going to feed that right into a string, and then we can give that to our database object. So then we make a statement here. So statement uses our database object, and we say prepare, come on, prepare my query. So now I've got the statement. So I've said, okay, hey database, get ready to run this. We're going to prepare it and make this statement that I can go and run. Then I can go run my statement. So then I can do statement execute. Why is it not suggesting things for me? It's being a small pain. That's okay. So it sets up, gets ready to do the query, and then it runs the query, and then I can get some results out. So these are, I can say, is my items then is going to equal my statement, and we've got a couple options. So I like this fetch all option. Why is it not suggesting that right? Something, it's real unhappy. I'm confused, but we'll make it work. Oh, thanks. I left my phone somewhere. So once we have this list of items, we can go do something with it. Now, generally what we're going to do is do some sort of loop, because this is going to be all of the items here that I have access to. So I'm going to just grab all of the items out that are returned, and then inside my code now I can go loop through it here. So we got a couple options for our loops. So an easy way of doing a loop here, we say PHP for each. And a for each loop is similar to what you've seen in Java. You're going to take one item at a time and access it. So we'll say for each, this is items as item. So this is the collection. So it loops. Where's my comment? Oh, goodness. I want that inside my block. That's what I want. Here we go. Loops over the collection as single item. Is that syntax here? Okay, so if I want to put all of these inside of some sort of way to organize them, I can make a table here, and I can end my table. This is a little HTML table. If you're not familiar with it, don't worry. So a table is just a nice way of putting rows and columns. So I want to put a table row to start here. And inside of that row, I want to use table headers. So a table header is like the heading here. So for item, then the different properties that we had for item were the SKU, the name, the quantity, and the price. So we're going to have a header for SKU. We're going to have a header for name. We're going to have a, no, not a comment. We're going to have a header for quantity. And we're going to have a header for price. Okay, and then inside of my loop, what I want to do is I want a new row every time. So I want to echo a table row here. And then inside of that table row, I'm going to put some table data. So inside of that row is the table data here. Oh, sorry, I need to go table data. So what I'm going to put in here then is going to be my item. And then item, to get at the individual values, we use this square brace notation. So it's the index of or key of. You can go by index, like column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3. I never recommend that. So you almost never want to use column numbering, because the column numbering can change behind the scenes. Right? So we always going to use column name. So I'm going to say ID. Right? This is the name of the field here. I'm sorry, SKU. So SKU. So it's going to say, hey, the item object value associated with the SKU column. We can echo that out. Echo, not each. My goodness. Let's see if I can do these right. No? Doesn't like my echo. Oh, okay. Sorry, I need to do this a little bit nicer here. So this for each loop is actually going to end the block here, and then I can do some just plain HTML code here to make this a little cleaner. It's a little funky here, but don't worry. And then this will start another PHP block. So you can actually start a set of curly braces and a loop inside of a block of code, and then you can end it in another block like later on with that curly brace. And then from here, then I can do another PHP echo the item SKU here. And then we end the table data. So each one of those attributes here is going to be another table data, right? So I'll have SKU, I'll have name, I'll have quantity, and I'll have price. And then I want to end the table row here. So for every item here, I'm going to start this for each loop. And then I get this plain HTML and with a couple echoes embedded inside of it. It's a little bit funky here. So you can do it this way. It's a little bit messy to kind of try and track these down. So it's easier to do, we say a colon here. And then in this block, we say end for each. Is our little bit nicer way of doing this. syntax. So you might see it either way. I like this end for each because it's a little clearer to what's happening rather than just, oh, hey, here's a closing curly brace and I have to go find the matching one. Right? Just gives you a better syntax for it, is my preferred syntax for it. We'll make that table. So let's give this a save. So that's our index page. So we'll call this, hey, maybe we'll add a table header for, I'm sorry, like a H2 heading. It says items. Okay, so we'll list all of our items. We'll start the table, and then when we're done, we end the table. Let's give it a shot. Uh-oh. Call to undefined method, PDO statement, fetch all. So index page 10 failed. Index page 10. I knew it didn't like this. What is going on here? Why does it not like my statement? Database, prepare, my query, my statement, execute. Typo. Is I spelling it wrong? I have a typo somewhere. Where is it, Christy? Prepare. Execute. Why is it not knowing what this is? Is it my database? PDO? Did I do that one wrong? Let me go back up. Oh my goodness, I spelled fetch wrong. Yep. Fetch. Thank you. Thank you for that. You get some bonus points, Christy. If you type in the exclamation point bonus points, Nightbot will be happy to give you some bonus points there. Ah! Oh, yeah, execute. Doesn't know what an execute is either. My goodness. Execute. Friends, having all sorts of a fun time here. There we go. And now I refresh, and I got my page. And now let's go back, and I'm going to add some more. Let's add another item here, right? So let's go, and we want to insert some more data. So I'm going to go to insert here. So what else should we sell at our store here? So let's SKU number 2. And again, that's not really a good SKU, but that's okay. Don't worry too much about it here. What should we sell? What else do you want to sell at our store? We've got coffee. A 3080. A graphics card? That's the NVIDIA 3080. Cookies? Okay, we can do all those. So we only have like one of these graphics cards here, and we're a scalper, so let's charge like $5,000. Oh, thank you. I also forgot my insulin pump. I am a mess. Oh boy. No, I didn't see it. Oh, okay. I can do that a little bit. All right. Let's see. I took off my insulin pump and I forgot to put it back on, and it's the beeping annoyed my wife enough she brought it to me. All right, I'll get that connected again. Hey, happy Thursday, Last 7 Samurai. Thanks for coming on by, JJ. Good to see you again. All right, so let's add our NVIDIA graphics card here for $5,000 because we're a dirty scalper. Why not? And then let's add some Sour Patch Kids. So SKU 3, why not? So Sour Patch. We could probably got like a dozen of those here, and maybe those are $1.50. Cool, we'll add those. Cool, just add a couple, and we should be good. And we'll come back to our page here now. And if I just refresh my page, it goes and loads all of it here. Right? That's pretty cool. Hey, let's see. I think I can do this here. Hey, look at that. My shoutout command works. If you folks are interested in chess, feel free to stop by my friend's channel when he's around. JJ is amazing. A grandmaster from Turkey, who's actually here studying computer science, particularly artificial intelligence, right, in the master's program. I think I remember. So he is wicked smart and just an all-around great guy. And it'll make your chess better. So if you wanted to play chess with me, by the way, feel free to challenge me to a game here. I like the daily games where you like make one move a day or something. And we can go from there. All right, so we got our items here. So this is selecting all of them here. Okay, that's great. Now, what if we want to add some items, right? we could go do that. So let's go add a table. Masters in artificial intelligence. That's so cool. That stuff is like, it's crazy intense. All right, so this is just our select here. So why don't we make a form? So let's go copy out our form here from over here, because I don't want to have to redo anything. Make a form, index, make a form. This will be to, now we can do this all on one page actually here, which is kind of fun. So we'll send this right back to index. And because we're going to be modifying something, for sure I want this as a post here. So we need the SKU of an item. We need SKU. We need the name of an item. For name, we need the quantity. And we need the price. You know what, I'm changing my mind. Let's do this to add item here. Let's make an add item page. I think that might be easier for us. Quantity, and then a price. Price of price. Okay, and then we'll add item from here. How about item SKU? Sure. Item name, I don't know. That's fine. You'll probably get the idea here. So if you want to add an item, then let's go add a new file here. This is the add item page. So add item needs to require once our database page, so we can connect to the database. Now to add information here, right, we need to create a query. And if you go back to where we were adding our own data, it's an insert command. You say insert into the name of the table, the fields that you're going to insert, and then the values you want to insert from there. So I'm just going to copy paste this essentially. So my query then is going to be, oops, where's my quotes? Oh goodness, that's an ugly thing here. Thankfully, all those backticks we don't need. So I'm just going to get rid of all of those because they bother me. So you're going to say insert into item, the SKU, the name, the quantity, and the price. Now, here's the tricky part here, is we don't actually want to take the SQL commands and add stuff directly from the user, right? Because we need to get these things, we need our variables here, right? We're going to have the SKU was going to be our filter, validate, input stuff, right? Where do we do all that? Right in here, right? Filter, validate. HTML special characters, of course, because who knows what they're giving me here. For SKU, we'll do it for name. And then we had quantity and price, so those ones are going to be validate for floats, right? Let's copy one of those over. And these are all input posts here. It all needs to come across on the post. If we're posting data, it's not a GET request because we're actually changing something here. So this will be quantity and filter validate for float. Well, that's an int, right? And then price, though, would be a float. Filter validate that for float. Okay, so this will be quantity, and this will be price. So I don't want to just append in as a string these particular values, because who knows what they're going to give me. They can give me some really nasty SQL stuff, and there's a thing known as a SQL injection attack. And this is one of the most common things that happen to anybody everywhere. Who's got a decent, sure, why not? Malware bots? They're probably fine. So the idea with a SQL injection attack is when you have a website that accepts user input, they're going to go give you something malicious. Just if you look at, hey, I can give you JavaScript if you don't do those special characters, and when you go pass it to your database, you're going to go run it. So a couple things you can do against. Oh, I thought they'd have an example of it. Let's do an example. SQL injection example. Tutorials Camp Guru 99. I don't know what any of those pages are. W3 schools. They sound close enough, right? So if you have some sort of code and you're just taking that user ID from the request string, and they put something in like or 1 equals 1, if you're just throwing that in here, they're going to get all of the users back out because 1 or 1 is true. 1 equals 1 is always true. So they're going to get everything out of the user's table, right? And if you're like, oh, hey, select passwords, and again, this is just stupid because we don't do this with passwords, but that's okay. This sort of thing. We're going to pass in bad things here. right? We get all sorts of trouble here with this. So SQL injection is dangerous. So we don't want to just take their input and throw it in there willy-nilly, right? So what we do then instead is we will bind parameters, which is really cool. So inside of my string here, I say :skew. Now let me bump this down a line here. And then we'll say :name. We'll say :quantity. And we'll say :price. What I can do here then is I can take that query after I've prepared my statement now. So I'll do my statement, and I'll say that equals my database, prepare the query. I can take my statement, and I'm going to do this thing called bind value. I'm going to say, okay, hey, bind the thing name known as :skew to my variable skew. This binding here behind the scenes, because this class is built into PHP, does automatic protection against SQL injection attacks. It sanitizes it for any sort of SQL nonsense you might be putting in here. So you always want to go this route of doing the binding. Never append directly in from user input. That should be skew, right? Then we had name was name. Then we had quantity was quantity. And then we had price was price. Okay? And then we're going to go execute. So statement, execute. Okay? Great. So now that will run my page, and then I will just end the PHP block, and then let's say, I don't know, add a href index.php index. So doing the prepare is what connects the query to and creates it's actually a statement object behind the scenes. So prepare returns a value. It's a function here in the library, and it returns a statement that you can go do things like bind value on, and then you can go call execute on. So prepare gets it ready to go. Now, all of this bad stuff could happen, right? So we do actually want to put all of this then inside of a try block here as well. And we want to catch, I think it's a SQL exception, I want to say, something like that. And we'll catch that exception, and then we can echo, what do we do over here in our database? We'll just copy this, right? We'll get the error message. Oh, we'll just call it exception, why not? We'll catch any exception that happens, because I don't remember what the particular name is here. Okay, database error, sure. We'll get the message out. Okay, so if I mess something up in here, we'll see what that error is. So let's reload this, run it here, and let's see if we can go add something now. Oh, here we go. Pop this over here. No, I want that on my other screen. Let's give you this down here. There we go. All right, so what should we add? So let's add another item. So number 4, someone wanted to sell cookies, right? Say we've got maybe 24 cookies, and those are 99 cents each. Let's add the item. Takes me to the add item page. Then go back to index, and now I have cookies here. Right? But if I were to have a mistake in here, like, hey, let's rename one of these things here. Let's say I had a typo in name, May, right? And then I try and run this again. Let's do insert 5, and let's do how about milk? 12 gallons of milk, and price is $1.99. We go to add. I get database error. Column not found. Unknown column name nominee in field list. Right, so catching the exceptions here is useful for us to see it. Now, this is also a little bit bad form. You don't necessarily want to give the users all this detail here. Again, we don't really know the good way to log exceptions and mess with it. So this is the easy route, and we're happy to take it. Okay, because we prefer this to happen. So doing your try catch is going to make sure we catch any of those mistakes. Here, let me go fix that again. And then we can go back, right, and we can list them all out, and we can see all of our stuff here. So we've got select, right? We've got insert. So we've done in the CRUD operations, we've created, we've read. Now we need update and we need delete. So we'll work on those in a little bit. I got a little after 7, so why don't we take a break here? I'll throw some music on. We'll go look at how we can update existing data, and then we'll look at how we can delete data to flush out those CRUD operations here. Okay? Let's throw some music here. Here, we'll start that track at the beginning because this was a good one. All right, and I'll put on the break screen. We'll come back in about 10 minutes or so. That puts us at, what, 7:22 p.m.? All right, I'll see you in a minute. Alrighty, friends. Welcome on back. Hope you're doing alright. Got some more coffee? Let's see. We good there? Oh, my music. Volume was low. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. Alright. So far we have the select. We've got an add. We're going to do an update. Yeah, definitely. So what's happening in here is these are simply substitutions so that we can avoid SQL injection issues or attacks or whatever attacks. So the alternative here, this is the bad way, would be to say, hey, my query is this thing here, directly given SKU, right, name, quantity, and price. So this is dangerous here. This is the bad way. So don't do it this way. You would get a query here, but it doesn't protect you against SQL injection attacks. So by using these bind value things, we say, hey, let's map SKU, allows to do safe substitutions. Substitutions here. So I'm actually going to comment this one out because that's real bad here. We don't want to do it that way. So it'll take :SKU and replace it when we do this bind value. We'll say, okay, go look in the statement in the query here, find the thing that says :SKU and replace it with the SKU variable safely. So I think we've got it. There's something here, PHP, PDO, statement, bind value. I think this will show here, right? That's differences. I don't know. That's the PHP manual. I don't know if that's going to be very useful or not. Trying to think of what's a useful thing here. Maybe this first one's not bad. No, it doesn't even tell you. Okay, sorry, it's not showing you why it does it here, but it's to be safe for SQL injection attacks. Is there why, maybe? Why? Let's see, someone's got to explain it, right? Bind value. Named placeholders. You can do the question marks, but it's better to do the colons. They substitute better. Yeah, so I'm not seeing. I thought it would show something in here about why, but that's to make sure we do safe injections here, safe bindings. Does that make sense? Go. Okay. Yeah, so with the question marks, you have to do it by number. So if we would say, hey, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, and then you have to say bind value 1, bind value 2, bind value 3, bind value 4. Because, and then if you get things out of order, it's rough. So anytime you can do names over positions, you're much better off. Yeah, so it does the binding by name here. So it's named bindings. Named bindings later. Yep, cool. All right, so that was add. Let's go add another PHP file here. Let's call this one update item. So basically, we're going to do almost everything that's add here, but a little bit differently. So I'm going to go back to my index page, and then we want another form here for update item. Now, what we said, remember, when we built our tables in the PHP MyAdmin tool, we gave these things that were the unique primary key identifiers of a table, right? When we looked at it, we said this was the primary key. This is the unique identification of a table. So we said SKU must be unique, right? You can't have two items with the same SKU because then, that's real bad. So the database doesn't allow you to do that. When we went to customer, we just said, hey, we'll just generate a customer ID because it's fine. We do this auto increment thing. So every new customer just gets the next number and the next number and the next number. So we didn't care about that. It didn't really have any meaning context-wise. It's just a way to uniquely identify it. So if we have a unique identifier, I can then go update the rest of the values. So this is the item SKU to update, maybe, and then new name, new quantity, and new price. Sure, right? We can go update. So if you tell me what the SKU is, I'm going to go update the values. So to do that then, our SQL command, it needs to be a little bit different. So let's go and see if we can generate an update one here. So let's go back to item, and let's go to our edit here. Let's see, edit. We'll edit our cookies, and let's say, hey, we now have, we sold some cookies, now we have 12 cookies left. And I say go, and it should give me the SQL it runs. So it says update item, set quantity equal 12, where item.sku equals 4. So we use this where clause. So a where clause is going to restrict what is being operated on. So this will just update where the SKU is for. And because SKU is the primary key, it will only ever update one possible item. And you can update as many things as you want. So if we go update this one again here, so this is, how about we say chocolate chip cookies. And now we say, hey, let's make, let's go back to 24, and let's say, let's charge $1.99 for these ones here. I need to go. I'll see, if you want to update multiple things, you just say what you're updating, comma, what you're updating, comma, what you're updating, where, here. So I'm going to grab this whole statement here, and we're going to change our query then. Okay, so it's a little ugly still, but so we have update item. We want to set name equal :name, because that's what we're going to substitute. So whatever name you give me here, I'm going to substitute in. Quantity is the :quantity. Price is the :price. And all these little backticks are obnoxious. We can get rid of those because we don't need them here. Let me do that comma here, actually. I don't want to have to start with a comma. Price equal price, and then where. So you can actually, it's fine. Item.sku is fine and proper. You could just say SKU equal, and now this one here is SKU. So that's our new SQL statements. We're going to say update item. So update the table item. We're going to set value. Name is name, quantity is quantity, price is price, where the SKU is the SKU. And then we do the same exact bindings here. We're saying, okay, replace SKU with SKU, replace name with name, replace quantity with quantity, price with price. Okay, so let's give that one a shot. So this is updating. So again, you could be smarter about it if you know this is empty, not update that, but this makes the query harder. So we're just going to go the easy route and say, hey, you have to give me everything you want to update. So if you meant to only update quantity and you don't give me a price, I'm going to assume it's 0, which is probably bad. But again, we're taking the easy approach right now. Okay, we're still learning, so we're going the easy route. We're not going to feel too bad about it. So if I want to, oops, we're supposed to say update item here on our index page. This is update item. Okay, let me give that a refresh. Oh, not that page. Where did it go? It was this one with all my tabs, right? There we go. So here's the item SKU to update. So let's say let's update our Sour Patch. Let's call those Sour Patch Kids. And let's say now we have 24 of them, and let's say we're going to charge $1.25 each. And we update our item. Goes to the update page. Didn't have any errors. We'll go back here, and it looks like it updated. $1.25, we have 24 Sour Patch Kids. Now what's going to happen if I give it a SKU that doesn't exist? Quantity doesn't matter, price doesn't matter. I'm going to get, uh-oh, we didn't get any errors. Nothing happened because when the database query said, hey, update where SKU equals 5, there was no 5, so nothing got updated, right? No error actually happened. We just, nothing, there was no result, right? So again, there's ways we can worry about doing some handling around that, but we don't care at this point. You can like see how many rows are updated and that sort of fun stuff, but we're not going to bother with that. So let me take, can I take this comment out the bad way here? Out of the update, or I guess we can just leave it in, it doesn't matter. Oh no, it doesn't match because that's the answer. I'm going to take it out. Okay, so that's update, and let's do a delete. So if you want to go delete an item, The only thing you need to tell me is the SKU. I have one more form here for delete item. SKU to delete. You don't need to tell me the name, quantity, and price, because none of that matters, right? And here's delete item. The only thing I care about is the SKU, because that will uniquely identify it here. Let's go add a new PHP file for delete item. Excuse me. And we'll go copy, just to get some of this stuff in here. So the only thing we need is the SKU. Right? Oh, that's supposed to be an integer too, isn't it? Oh, well. So to delete something, we say we want to delete from item. So delete is the keyword here, from the table, where SKU equals SKU. And we just substitute in the SKU. We go execute it. So I can go delete from the table where there's a SKU. Okay, let's give that a save and a run. So the delete operations are real quick, right? So let's delete SKU 5. Oh, well, nothing happened, right? There was no SKU 5. Let's go add a new SKU 5 here. So test 12 and 12. All right, we added 5. Now we'll go delete 5. Go back to the index, and 5 is gone. So deletes are pretty quick. Now, we're going to keep them in, but just in general, deleting stuff out of a database is possibly risky, right? If you delete someone's transaction, then there is no record of it anywhere, right? And then when someone says, hey, I thought I bought something, or I want to return something, or whatever's going on here, it's gone. So deleting stuff is generally considered bad form from a database. Usually you'll update it, and then there's fancy things you can do in the database to say, like, is inactive, or deactivate, or delete it, like as a flag you can say it's been deleted, or ignore, or out of date. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy things you can do in database land. We're not going to get into that. So we'll take the easy route and say, sure, we can delete it. We'll feel a little bit bad about it here, but not too much. So we'll even add a note here. So we feel a little bad to delete stuff from a database. Ideally, mark it inactive or something else, right? Again, that's maybe the ideal world. So like if you're a store, you want to just say, hey, I no longer sell this item. You don't want to delete it from the database, because then the other issue, remember, one of the database's job is to maintain referential integrity. And if you ever sold that particular item, it would also have to delete all of those transactions, all those line items, and all the transactions that referenced it, because it wouldn't exist. So you wouldn't be able to keep a historical record of the times you did sell it, just because you don't sell it anymore. So just worry, keep that in your back pocket, that deleting stuff is generally bad form. Okay, so we did item. We need to do the same thing for customer. Line item and transaction are a little bit harder because they need a little bit more SQL knowledge to manage all of these things here. So let's look at, because transaction needs a customer. It's okay. I'm trying to think of a nice way to do this. So with our basic database, we're pretty much only going to buy like one thing at a time. It's kind of difficult to buy multiple things. So we'll really just have one line item per transaction at a time, but that's okay. Don't worry too much about it. Let's see. So we got the pages here, right? We got the index page. Cool. What else do we need here? Let me take a look at some notes. Make sure we're covering everything. Excuse me. Yep. Updates. Cool. Deletes. Sure. Let's see. We have everything we need. Yep. Should be okay. And then they go through their example of this product manager page, which is kind of fun. You can go and add products for their particular, they have categories of things that they sell and that sort of thing. So should be okay. Yep, deletes, cool. Yeah, they have their guitar shop. All right, yeah, I think we're pretty good there. Let's see, how far does this one go? Yep, all right, awesome. So this is just some basics here. So let's look at what we would do then for, so I think you should be able to go tackle, at this point, a customer page where you can add customers, right? You can update customers, you can delete customers, and you can select all the customers. We only have name. There's not a whole lot of interesting stuff going on here, and the ID is auto-generated. So let's take a look at one of those then. So if you're auto-generating the ID, if we go add data here, we'll go add a customer here. You just leave it blank, and we'll say, hey, let's add my wife Jasmine. We'll add her as a customer. So she can buy some cookies. You can do this null thing here if you want, or the other option is you just don't include it in your column list. Either one's okay. This approach is probably easier because this is just a straight copy-paste out. We're going to go look at what the code looks like, and then we'll take all of that and copy-paste it in to our own tables here. We go deal with items, and we go deal with customers. So looking at a transaction then is a little bit trickier because a transaction needs a customer ID and a date and time. Now we didn't have a default date and time here. So let's take a look at, I think that field here. Was this a timestamp? No, it's a date and time. So we want the PHP MySQL date time field. Insert. Let's see. How do we do? You can use now. Okay, so now will give us the current date and time, which is pretty cool. So instead of having to generate a date and time, we can just say, hey, database, whatever time it is now, use that time. So if we were to go add one for, let's do, this was a transaction, or what, we wanted to add transaction. So we'll look at add item to start here. We can basically copy paste a lot of this here. So we need the database. Now for transaction, we need a customer ID, right? We need a customer ID as the customer ID, and that's it. Right, so we want to say insert into transaction, and we have the ID we can leave as null. We can have the customer ID. We can have the, what do we call it, date and time, I think is what it was. Yes, ID, customer ID, date underscore time. So values then will be null, customer ID, and we'll say now with parentheses. We'll prepare our query. We'll go bind the ID to the ID. This is our customer ID. We'll go bind to the $customer ID. Right? And we'll go run that query. We're going to go insert into transaction, an ID, a customer ID, a date and time. The values of null, because this will auto-generate here, so we can use that null for fields that are auto-increment. Increment. That might be spelled wrong, but I think you guys got it. Here, or don't include them. So the other option you have here then, if you want, you can just not include the ID field. So either way is perfectly fine. So either approach, right? Or don't include the fields that are auto-increment. Okay, either one's okay. Hey, thanks so much for following along. Glad to have you here. Okay. Excuse me. So now we can add stretch. Thank you so much. Yep. Definitely time for a good stretch. Oh. Been sitting at my desk all day. Tuesdays and Thursdays are rough, I'm telling you. I did badly planning the schedule here with morning classes, afternoon classes, and evening classes. But that's why we have coffee, right, friends? That's why we have coffee. All right, so to add a transaction then, so let's see. This is going to be all items here, and then let's add another H2 maybe in here. For this is transactions. And we want a add transaction, maybe, as a form. Let's call this the add transaction. This is the customer ID. We need this to be customer ID, and we want add transaction. Right? Okay, so you should be able to do that. So let's give that a run. Now what's going to happen though, if I put a customer ID that doesn't exist, like customer ID 3, and we go to add transaction, we get integrity constraint violation. Column customer ID cannot be null. Uh-oh. Null. All right, well, null was no good. We probably screwed something up here then. Let's see. Yep, customer. So they got null because there was no value there. It didn't find that field. It didn't validate. So we want customer ID. Let's give that one a try. Not the example I wanted, but that's good. Good. Try that again. So customer ID 3. Now we get, really? I'll reload the page. 3. Here we go. Now we get an integrity constraint violation. Cannot add or update a row. Foreign key constraint fails. Store transaction, constraint, transaction, whatever. Foreign key customer ID references customer ID. All this to say this foreign key constraint violation, I gave it a foreign key, a customer ID that did not exist in the customer table. The database did a good job here. Say, good job, database, pat, 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 pat. You threw up on an invalid transaction. If I'm trying to say, hey, a customer bought something and I give you the wrong number, it shouldn't take it, right? Bad stuff should happen. And the bad stuff means, oh, no, it just totally failed. Now, if I do want to add a transaction, though, like for customer ID 2, it should be fine. We'll go back to the index page. Now, we're not going to see it here. We don't have any of those select pages, but if I go to transaction again, now we'll see we have a new transaction for customer ID 2 as of now, right? The date and time was now. You can give it other dates and times. You can give it other formats. There's all sorts of things you can do, ways that you can format it here for other dates if you want. Now works if it's at this date and time. If you wanted to say it's for a different time, though, you need to use essentially this kind of format here with this year, month, day, hour, minutes, seconds. I don't know why that's an I, but I guess M was for month, so sure. So you need to use this correct format here for your dates then. So if you want, you can get particular about it here. Dates given a make time, sure. You got all sorts of fun options here for given particular dates. Generally, now is enough. Again, if you want to do something more complex, we can tackle that later. We're just trying to get some basics down. So whenever the transaction hits the database, we'll say that's the time it was. It is a little bit prone to error, but not that much, right? So if something bad happens on our database server and it has the wrong time, we're going to put some bad times in here. But generally, that's a whole other issue anyway. So we won't feel too bad about adding that transaction here. Then what we want to do now to get a line item, right? We said a line item was for a given item SKU and a given transaction. So I need to give it the item SKU, I need to give it the transaction ID, I need to give it the quantity, and then the total cost. Now, total cost is a little bit complicated here because we want quantity times the item price. So we have to do some additional arithmetic here. So again, I'm not going to finish out all these pages here. That's actually going to be for your project to finish out these pages, but I want to do the line item here. I want to do add line item because this one is a little bit tricky. Should we say line item? Or is that one word, 2 words? I think we did it as one. No, we did it as 2, so I'll do it as 2. Add line item. I'm a little hyper. I apologize. I've got the coffee jitters here. Definitely have those jitters. It's hitting hard. So deep breath, slow down a minute, apologize. I feel like I'm going a mile a minute, which is normal, but we're hitting all this new stuff, so we gotta be a little careful. All right, so what we want to do here is we want to do some magic. Okay, so for let's take adding, we'll take add transaction. Why not? We'll copy that one in here. So we need the database, we need to get the customer ID, we need a couple other fields as well, right? We need the transaction ID, which is the transaction ID, and then we need the quantity, right? And I think I had a quantity from over here I can go steal, right? Again, I'm all about copy paste. If you can copy paste something, go for it, right? Work smarter, not harder. Okay, so we also needed, no, we didn't need customer. I'm sorry, we needed the SKU. That's what we needed, was the SKU. One of these days I should fix that so it's not HTML special characters, like it's an int, but I don't know. You can't have leading zeros as an int, right? If you're trying to have an integer like 001, it's just going to give you 1. So possibly if your SKU starts with a 0, I don't even know if that's allowed. Oh yeah, this one. This SKU starts with a 0. Look at that. Look at that. SKU starts with a 0 there. So that would cause all sorts of issues for me. 0, 8, 7, 8. Come on, focus, focus, focus. Come on. Autofocus. All right, close enough. You can see it starts with a 0. So we don't want it. It'll cause issues, so we're fine. We'll just deal with it there. All right, so we need the SKU, we need the transaction ID, we need the quantity. I will calculate total price. Okay, so to do that though, right, what we want to do here is a little bit of fancy work here. So what I want to do is I want to get a query then that will go look up an item. So I'm going to go to my index here where I'm going to look up an item. I'm sorry, let's see. Similar to this here. Similar to this. So I'm going to make a query. I'm going to say select star from item where SKU equals SKU. I'm going to prepare the query, and then I will go and do the binding here. So let's go bind SKU to SKU. We did that in what, update item, I think. So this says, okay, go get all the fields here from the item table where the SKU matches. Now, there's also another option to fetch all. So fetch all will give you all of the results as an array. Okay, we actually haven't talked about Python or PHP arrays, which is weird. The ordering's a little bit funky here because we're already using them, so I apologize for that. But if you just say fetch, it gives you a single row or the first row. And I know if I'm giving you a single SKU, it's only ever going to get one result back out. So this gets just a single row here. So then what I can do, I can have the item price is equal to the item index of price. Okay, and then I can calculate total price is going to be my item price times the quantity. Right? So I'm going to take the quantity, multiply it by the item price I just got out, and insert that in. I can do this in my code here if I want. Okay, then when I go insert into line item, I'm going to insert the the customer ID, the transaction ID, the quantity, and the total price. Right? So values of customer ID, colon, transaction ID, quantity, and total price. Okay, and we'll go bind all of those items in here. Right, bind the transaction ID, bind the quantity, bind the total price to transaction ID, to quantity, and to total price. Okay, now this is what I'd expect you folks to do. There is a way to do this directly in the SQL itself, but that's a little bit more advanced, and I think that just conceptually is a little bit harder, if that's okay to say. So I think conceptually, so just saying, hey, let's go ask the database for this data, get the data out, do our arithmetic with it, and then spit it back into the database, feed it back in, right? I think works a little bit better for us here. Does that make sense? Okay. So I can add into my line item then all those values, right? We needed the SKU, the transaction ID, oh, item SKU, it's item SKU. Not transaction ID, it's item SKU. I don't know why I keep thinking that. The item SKU, and that was just SKU, right? I think we just said. Yeah, SKU. So the item SKU in the query here matches to the SKU variable. Does that make sense? Okay. Should we try it? Let's see if this works. So now we need a add line item. Do we have that in our, we need a new form for it, right? So this will be add a line item. Line item. This is add line item. We'll post. So we need the transaction ID. This is transaction ID is the transaction ID. We need the SKU. We get a SKU up here. I'll start item SKU and quantity. We don't need name, right? So let me take name out. Okay, so we'll have a transaction ID, we'll have a SKU, we'll have a quantity. Right? Is that what we're looking for? Transaction ID, SKU, and quantity? Make sense? And then this was add line item. Okay, let's give that a run. See if we can add a line item here. So we have, now again, we don't have the select pages yet. That's okay. Let's go look at our transaction table. The transaction table has two transactions, transaction ID 1 and transaction ID 3. So let's add, for transaction ID 3, you want transaction ID 3, let's go buy some cookies here, and let's buy 4 packs of cookies. So 4 times $1.99 should be 8 cents or 4 cents less than $8, right? So $7.96. So we'll add our line item. Uh-oh. Undefined variable customer ID. Oh, goodness. We don't have a customer ID. What am I doing here? For add line item. Where are we doing customer ID? Oh, yeah, there's no bind value for customer ID. That was transaction ID. Transaction ID. Transaction ID. Transaction ID. Transaction ID. Here. There we go. Okay. I had that wrong. I'm sorry. I had this stuck in my head the wrong way. So that's good. It's good. It failed, and that's good. Try it again. So transaction ID 3, item SKU 4, quantity 4. We'll add that line item. Oh, unknown column, total price in field list. Okay. So what's wrong with the total price? In our database, in our line item, it is called total cost. Okay, sure, we can fix that. So that is total cost here is total cost. We'll fix total cost. And again, you don't have to rename the variables, but I think keeping them all the same makes life a little easier for you here. Just keeps it a little bit straighter. So now we have a total cost for all of those. Okay, let's go back. Try it again. All right, it didn't fail. So let's go see. Now, do we have a line item now? We select star from line item. ID 2, item SKU 4, that was cookies, right? Transaction ID 3, quantity 4, total cost $7.96. So does that make sense what we're doing here? How this is like a multi-step happening because we need to get other information about something to calculate with this here. So this gets the current item price. Here, let me put this above. It makes it a little cleaner, I think, instead of at the end. Gets the single item price, right? Don't need that note. So we can do all of these lookups here and figure out information from other tables, do our arithmetic, and then feed it in. Does that make sense? Okay. The next thing that we want to do here, right, is when you go buy something, right, we should update the quantity in the item table. Remember, we have this item table that has a quantity. So when you go buy 4 cookies, we should reduce the quantity by 4. Okay, so we need to do another transaction here then. Right, so this one then is an update. So I'm going to go back and grab my update here, essentially. Now I don't need to update all of those values here, but we need to update some of them. So we need to get the current value out. So we did, oh, not add transaction, shoot. Add line item. Here we go. Nope, down here. After that statement execute. If you get these out of order, it does real bad stuff to you. You gotta be a little careful here. So we're gonna update item. We don't need to change name. We do need to set quantity. We don't need to set price. Where the SKU matches. Now, what we want to do then is our quantity, right? Oh, I didn't want to delete SKU. I want SKU. I don't need name, and I do need quantity. So the quantity then, right, should be the, we need the item current quantity equals the item key of quantity. And then we'll get a item new quantity equals my item current quantity minus the quantity. Right? How many are we buying? Right? Now, really, all of this then should go into a quick, we can do a quick sanity check. If the item new quantity is less than 0, right, none of this should happen. Otherwise, then we can do all of this stuff here. So let's put all this in an else block. And this will be the item new quantity. Okay? So if the item's less than 0, we're just going to echo out, this is a little bit ugly, but that's okay. We'll echo not enough items in stock to purchase quantity. Okay, otherwise, we know we're good to go. Sure, let's go figure out our cost, insert it into line item. So if you try and buy too many items here, right, we can't do that. We won't let you here. So this is doing our checking, ensure we have enough to sell, right? Again, a little bit ugly here. Well, we can worry about cleaning it up later. But then, so we'll go add the line item, and then we'll update the quantity table, set the quantity to the new item quantity, right? That makes sense? So let's go run this. Now let's go buy some more cookies. So I currently have 24 cookies. If I want to go buy, let's do transaction ID 1 for cookies here. Let's go buy a dozen cookies. Okay, it worked. I come back now and I have 12 cookies left. For transaction 1, item SKU 4, let's buy 100 cookies. Uh-oh, we didn't get an error here. Now we have negative 88. Oh, something went wrong here. Why didn't that work? Oh, item is less than 0. Oh my goodness, item new quantity is less than 0. Oh dear. Okay, that was wrong. Yeah, item is never less than 0 because item is at something. So like if that's less than 0 is a weird PHP statement, but legal PHP code, oddly enough, where it was just false. So now we have a problem in the database. So we go fix that. So let's go to our line item here. Let's delete that order here where we bought 100 of them. Go back to item, and we'll change our quantity. Oh, here we can update quantity right here, right? We've got that ability here on our update item. So the SKU update's 4. The name is still chocolate chip cookies. Chocolate chip cookies. Quantity, we'll say we still have a dozen of them for $1.99. We'll update that. Go back, and look at that. Now we're back to a dozen. So now we'll try it again. So transaction ID 1, item SKU 4. Let's buy 100 of them. It says, oh, not enough items in stock to purchase 100. Bummer. And we could get this message even nicer here, right? We could even have the item name if we wanted, right? So item name is going to be my item object key of name, right? And then I can just put in not enough item name in stock to purchase that many, right? It just makes it a little bit nicer looking, right? So transaction 1, SKU 4, buy 100 cookies, not enough chocolate chip cookies in stock to purchase 100. Right, it gives a nice little error message. It's kind of nice and pretty. Does that make sense? You feeling okay so far? So it's a little bit clunky here. Trying to add one transaction and add individual line items is not ideal. It's not what we'd like to do for a website, but we don't really have the ability to like, hey, let's put together a shopping cart yet, where you can go add a bunch of things and then check out all at once. We'll get there, right? We'll get there. Don't worry. We're taking things slow, one little bit at a time here. So how you folks feeling about basic interactions with our database, our CRUD operations? We can create, insert, we can read, select, we can update, and we can delete in terms of our operations. So we can interact with tables from code, from the website here. And basically any form we want to build out, we can go and do, right? Anything we can envision on the HTML side of things, we can then go translate and go interact with the database. That makes sense? Boom, all the coffee. I like they're like dancing here in the little image. Okay, yeah, after we watch, gotcha. So, what we're going to do for our project then, project 1, is you're going to go finish this. You're going to add in the rest of the CRUD operations for transactions, for line items, and for customers. So you're just going to take what we've done and kind of add to it. Again, I don't want to have you build your own database because databases weren't a prereq for the class. So given this database, assuming things went well with the lab, you should just be able to get going here. So this is project 1, database CRUD. And I know CRUD sounds funny, and I do that on purpose because it fits really nice. Let me do the 17th by 6 p.m. So 2 weeks to get this done. Let's do, I think, 10 points for this one or so. And let's add a new category for projects. Okay, you're going to submit the URL for me here. So let me go set up that classroom link. Go to 2454. So in terms of a lab, if you want anything for practice, we're doing it for the project. So I don't think we need a lab today. Next week when we talk about things, we'll do a lab exercise again, if that sounds okay. So we'll take the project really as the homework then. Winter 2022, project 1. This is Oakland College Java template. Weird, the Java template's fine for what we're doing. It'll be okay. Feedback pull requests. So I'll give you this repository link. This will generate your repository. So start a new repository, start a new project in that repository. Feedback pull request URL. Self-assessment using the rubric. So we're going to look at other things next week to make it prettier, but you've got everything you need to finish the project tonight. Definitely, if you want to just get that done and out of the way. You can definitely get it done tonight. Next week, we're going to look at some more ways of laying it out, of designing it, kind of taking it to that next level. Goat, I'm glad we're going slow today. Oh, I'm sorry. I know it's a lot coming at you. So that's why we're going to try it, right? I'm going to show you some examples. You can read the book examples, and then you can try it yourself. And hopefully then with all that practice, that'll work. So we're going to take the store project and finish adding the rest of the CRUD operations for customer, transaction, and line item. Okay? So you probably want a separate page for each. It's probably going to be easiest. So if you make a customer page, right, rather than one big ugly index page here like I have, this is kind of hideous, right? It's probably better off, let's make a customer page that has add customer, update customer, delete customer. Let's make a transaction page that lists the transactions, has add transaction, update transaction, delete transaction. If you want to throw it all in one, that's okay too, but it gets a little bit ugly. Totally up to you. So either keep adding to the index page or create a customer PHP that has the listing, add, update, and delete forms. Customer PHP and all the other ones too. So I mean, it's not necessarily study hours, but in terms of overall work, Amir. So like, because it's a 4-credit class, ideally it's about 8 hours outside of class that you're spending doing stuff, whether it's studying or working on the labs, working on the exams, we're doing the quizzes, that sort of thing. Oh no, definitely don't start from scratch, Goat. I mean, if you want to start from scratch, just to get the practice for sure, but I'm expecting you folks to use what I've given you, what we've already done as sort of, here's the scaffold. And you're going to go and build out from there. That's sort of the idea. Yep. Okay, so we need, let's do a rubric here then. Make a new rubric for project 1. And again, you've got it or you don't have it, essentially. If you're like halfway there, then sure, feel free to give yourself some partial points in your assessment, but it's either there or it's not usually. Missing or complete. We're going to have customer update, because I already gave you customer. Oh, we didn't do anything customer, right? I don't think I had any customer pages. So we'll have those 3 customer list for a point. Okay, that's going to be a little slow. Well, that's fine. Customer update, insert, customer update, customer delete. Do we need those all as separate ones? Let's not do. Okay, I don't want them all as separate. I'm sorry. So customer create, read, update, delete. Options. Sure. Transaction. So transaction. So I gave you insert, right? So you need read, update, and delete options. And then for line item, again, read, update, delete here. And let's do custom points on this. I want custom points there. So that's 4 points for customer, 3 points for transaction, 3 points here. So let's do a total of 10 points, right? So 4 different operations per customer, 3 different ones for transaction, 3 different ones for line item, because we have the other ones kind of already done for you. Does that make sense? So I'll be at the 10 points for this one here. Again, don't worry about overall score. That's nonsense. Overall score. Why not? Okay. So remember, you need to create the user in the database, give it a username and password, so that you can then go connect to it here. Oh, let me edit this one here. I want to add the names because that's fun. So our tax estimator. So that self-assessment for the rubric, that's like your reminder to go look at the rubric and tell me, okay, for this item, I got all the points. I got some of the points. Okay, maybe I got select. I got the listings working. I was able to read the item, so I never got updates and deletes, that sort of thing. So don't worry too much about it. And when you get to deletes, remember, if you go and try and delete something, like delete a customer, actually here, well, let's do this. We'll watch the database throw up on us. So if I try and go delete an item now, SKU, let's try and delete cookies. Integrity constraint violation. Cannot delete or update a parent row. A foreign key constraint fails. Right? Line item references SKU. You can't go delete that SKU. This is good, right? This was an idea. You can't delete it if you already have a transaction for it. Right? So just let those sort of errors happen. No big deal there. Right? So you can delete line items, sure, because nothing references line items. But if you try and delete a transaction that has a line item, you can't do it. You try and delete a customer that has a transaction, you can't do it. You try and delete a SKU that has a line item, you can't do it. Which is good. The database is doing its job, making sure you don't remove things where we're saying, hey, this is a foreign key. It needs to point somewhere. We like that. That's good. That's all good there. So let me take my code here and commit it here. This is the store project v1. Commit and push. Excuse me. Okay, so we got the rest of tonight to get working on that. So next week we're going to come back. So I don't have the lab exercise because again we're kind of working off that same database. I don't want to have too many different databases that we're working on as we go. We'll do a separate lab next week, I think, that we can practice on. So next week we're going to tackle this model view controller idea of laying out our pages. We're going to talk about debugging finally. It's a little bit complicated, so I didn't want to throw it at you first, and it's the 6th chapter for some reason. And then we'll look more at this form data, some other cool things we can do with forms. And then we get to midterm week, and then we're off for midwinter recess. So don't even get to arrays, functions, and objects yet, but I didn't want you to spend the midterm or the week recess trying to cram for a midterm. So I wanted to do the midterm first, and then you actually get a break. So we won't finish the book until March here for all the PHP stuff we're doing, but it should be okay. So we'll tackle the second project here. Oh, I'm sorry, project 1, right? We're zero-based. And then the other project, this will be the last PHP project. We'll come back to the Java side of things then and do the last individual project here. And then we'll talk about the final project on the 31st. And then we present them on the 28th. That sounds like a good plan? So already we're looking into April. You know, I know it just became February here, but February... I'll give you next week, I'll give you last semester's midterm for practice, so you can look at it, see what kind of questions you can expect, that sort of thing. And then we can go from there, okay? That sounds like a good plan? All right, awesome. So I'll be around on Discord or email or text if you want to get in touch. If you got any problems getting started on this, again, I'm assuming everyone went well for the lab. No one reached out and said they couldn't build the database. So I actually thought that was really cool, that it must have just gone pretty nice. So if you didn't follow along and build a database, you need that to exist to do this project. And if you didn't name things letter for letter, they're not going to match. So it's worth a quick little review. Or if you get any errors with my code here, let me know if you're running into any trouble. We can go from there, okay? All right, so I'll be around. We got the rest of the night to work on it. Go take a break, get some more coffee, come back and work on it if you want, or just say you're done for the night and we'll come back to it later. So we do have 2 weeks for this project. It's due the day of the midterm, so we've got a little bit of like, hey, we've got to study for it first. But I think we'll be okay. Did I do this right? Is that our break? Hang on, no, I'm confused here. Let's see. Let me double check that because now I'm confused. I feel like my other classes don't have midterms so soon, but maybe I'm just confused. Take a look at our calendar here. Hey, OCC bot, nice to see you. Winter recess, February 28th through March 5th. No! Oh my goodness, friends. This is wrong. This is no. Oh goodness. So March 3rd is the day of midwinter recess. Holy cow. That is, oh, friends. Okay, well that's good. That's good actually then. So we can do arrays, function, and objects before we get to the midterm, which pretty much finishes up PHP. What? No, that's the wrong thing, friends. It's the back of my insurance card. That's not helpful. Just close that. All right, I opened the wrong thing. Let's see. The File Explorer in Windows 11 is so slow. It makes me really sad. Like super sad. I don't know what's going on with it here. Winter. 2454. Syllabus. All right, let's fix this. I'm so sorry about that. I don't even know what's going on here. I thought that looked funny compared to I have to go look at all my other classes here. Is it just you guys? I'm hoping it's just you guys that got screwed up. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so there we go. We are going to do arrays, functions, and objects, but not talk about the third project this week. Then we'll do the midterm. Then we'll have midwinter recess. So, okay, very good. So project 3, oh shoot, that's why, okay. So project 3, there, project 4, oh, okay, so we run into, I want to give it to you earlier. So I'm going to give you the final project earlier here this week, but project 4 won't be due until 4/7. Does that make sense? So if you want to get started early on the final project, great. Because otherwise you only get 3 weeks to work on it. And this final project won't be too bad. Don't worry too much about it here, if that's okay. Yeah, I think that'll be better. Does that sound okay, folks? Yeah, okay. All right. Sorry about that. That was all messed up here. So let me fix that. We'll go re-upload here to D2L. We'll close that. And then let's go fix this. Okay, now it should have the correct version. I'm sorry about that, folks. I'm so glad we went and looked. It's got to go render it now, of course. It's going to take a while. What does this rendering thing? Preparing the document preview. Okay, good. So now the midwinter recess, good. So now we actually closed the first week of March, essentially. February 28th. First week of March. Okay, I feel better. So we're a little bit jammed up. This last project, it won't be too bad. It's the first one we do with JSP, so should be okay. And we can go from there, okay? All right, cool. Sorry about that. Should be in good shape. Let me stop these. And then let's see, is there anyone around on Twitch land we should raid for fun? Put on my ending screen, and then we'll actually go see what's out there here. Let's do that. Let's see if there's anyone around. Is there anybody you want to go see? Let's see who's out. Some friends that I have. Go watch paleontologizing. Gonna go learn about dinosaurs. We can go watch chess. If you want to learn some chess, you can go hang out with JJ. Woodcraft by Owen. If you're interested in woodcraft, Microsoft Developer is live with talking about .NET 6 and Razor pages. They're always fun. Blacksmith, Burroughs Forge, you could go hang out with. What do you think? I'll do crafting, woodcrafting, blacksmithing, chess. Just a friend is playing Sea of Thieves. If you just want some upbeat hanging out time. Got lots of options. Anybody have a vote? Thanks, Segacus. Segacus 1? It's hard to say, sorry. All right, nobody has any votes. Oh, Sea of Thieves? All right, you got it. Let's go check out Bjorn then. That's a game. Sorry, are you voting Sea of Thieves or wanted to know what it is? It's a pirate game. You sail around in boats and you go find treasure and you can fight other players and things. Oh, you were voting. Okay. Yeah, let's go for it. You're the only vote, so let's try it. Well, Bjorn's a friend. Oh, goodness. Come on. Let's see if I can't type his name. Real nice guy. All upbeat. Happy to keep you entertained in the night when things are a little, whatever. So I will have her that way. Tell him say hi. I'll be around on Discord. Happy to help with anything you need. Take care.
I play on